Good morning, friends, and welcome to the August 2023 garden tour. It's a good day for a garden tour because I woke up, picked up the camera, and immediately saw a hummingbird fly by. So today we'll be taking a look at all my different garden rooms and how they're developing. And then at the end of the video, I'll be unveiling the winners of the dahlia naming contest. And I can't wait to share with you a beautiful sunset that happened yesterday right here in the backyard. Let's get started. So I wasn't too sure where we should start this morning's tour, but after seeing that hummingbird, why not start over here in the hydrangea room where we have Hummingbird Way. This garden is approximately a year old at this point. The right side of the border has been there for about 5 years, but the left side of the border we just put in last year, and I think it's filling in really nicely and giving you that feeling that the garden is giving you a big hydrangea hug. That's pretty much what I was going for all along. Now, what's blooming in this garden in August that wasn't blooming in July is this beautiful pink crepe myrtle, and hopefully you can see that in the top right-hand corner of your screen. I got this crepe myrtle from a girlfriend. It came into her nursery, but it wasn't marked. They didn't know the cultivar. They didn't know how big it would get. So she sold it to me along with one other crepe myrtle for only $5. I think that's definitely money well spent. And I think it was last year that I mentioned I thought I should add in some more pink into this garden in August. But now that I've had a small amount of time to live with the garden, I think I like the natural white and green tones that are happening here. It's a nice rest and break for the eye from the main flower walk, which is filled with pinks, purples, yellows, and oranges. Now, for the first time ever, I did decide to invest in a decent amount of bedding annuals, and I planted these Bossa Nova white begonias all along the border of the hydrangea room. My understanding is that these begonias are hardy down to a zone 7, so here in 6B, I think I'll experiment with leaving them in the ground, and I'll let you all know what happens. Last year, we grew cup and saucer vine up Hummingbird Way. This year, I have cup and saucer growing up the trellises in the raised bed garden. I think it's nice to be able to see the hummingbird ironwork, but I'm not sure if I'll miss having that abundance of vines over here in the fall. Let me know what you think. Now, look at Grace. She's already in her favorite chair for the day. I'm not sure why she likes to sit in that chair, but she makes her rounds around the garden and then she sits there until I'm done doing whatever I'm doing in the garden that day. So let's travel through Hummingbird Way, but let's also take a peek through my favorite window to see one of my favorite hydrangea pictures. Here it is. You see Firelight hydrangea has started to turn that beautiful red color. Next to it, Invincible Spirit 2 is a dusty green. In the far distance, the Limelight hydrangea is still white, turning slightly green at this point. Next to it is Annabelle, and down below us, the lace cap smooth hydrangea is Invincible Lace. Straight ahead, we have somewhat of a misplaced Diva Dahlia. I can't honestly remember if I left this tuber in the ground or if I planted it here in early summer and just forgot how big these Limelight hydrangeas get. But it's doing so well this year, really floriferous. And if you're looking for a dahlia that dries well, I would highly recommend Diva Dahlia. Now this year we put in a beautiful stone rug. It has a stone from my grandma's property that says the Millers in the center of it. and we surrounded it with random stones and bricks, and I think it turned out really nice. In between the stones, I have some lamb's ear planted. That lamb's ear is from my grandma's garden. Also, some jewels of opar popped up in this garden. That's the lime green foliage that you see. And to the left-hand side of the bench, I have common agastache, Verbena bonariensis, that's backed up by a Gatsby gout oak leaf hydrangea, next to some Amsonia, a hosta, and there's some purple gladiolus in this area as well. I might have forgot to point out that underneath that limelight hydrangea, I have some variegated sage. I'm not sure if that's hardy here in my zone, but I'll leave it and I'll let you know how it goes. So now we can take a look at the raised bed garden, and I've been focusing a lot of my attention this year on trying to turn my raised beds into a garden room. So I started by adding a deck to the raised bed garden. Oh, here comes Grace. She came out of her chair to say hello to us. We started out by adding this deck. I think it looks really nice, but I do think I need to enlarge it just a little bit, maybe about 12 more stones, 6 on each side. I'm contemplating surrounding that with a boxwood hedge and leaving an opening in the front. Let me know, please, what you think about that, because I'm undecided. I don't want to make a big investment in that if it would be a bad choice, but I just think it needs to be a little bit bigger. Now, up these trellises, we are growing the beautiful cup and saucer vine, and I can overlay some footage of that for you. The individual blooms on the cup and saucer vine don't last very long. They seem to come on quickly. It takes about 2 to 3 days for them to bloom, and then once they turn dark purple, they fall off the plant. So in this first raised bed, we have seed dahlias. These are Saving Grace's babies. It's the seed from Saving Grace that we saved last year. In the bed right next to those dahlia seedlings, we have apricot strawflowers. This is my second succession of apricot strawflowers, possibly an unnecessary succession because the first one is still blooming nicely and the plants are healthy. Over by Grace, we have our pepper bed, where we have banana peppers, jalapenos, cayennes, and I think one that's called hot red cherry. Maybe that's it. My husband says that one is not his favorite. In these middle beds, we have zinnias. I'm liquidating my zinnia seed this year, so I just stuck them in the ground to get a few blooms before the season's end. Here we have Banary coral. I've been tucking in about 2 of these into bouquets with sunflowers, obedience plant, and celosia at the flower stand. I believe this one is Banary bright pink, but to me it looks more like a bubblegum pink. Would you agree with that? Over here, I believe we have Banary lime, or it's possible that this is Envy zinnia. These were all saved seed, so my labeling system was not very good. I think I had just labeled this one green zinnia, so let me know if you can tell the difference. I have some decorative banana plants in the center of these beds, and then I have some red spike amaranth that some of you sent me the seed for. I'm really excited to see those bloom and use them on the dried flower Christmas tree. We just passed an older succession of sunflowers, and now we're passing a succession of sunflower Steve's Marley mix. I think I forgot to show you, but to the left side I have another succession that is about to bloom as well. And down below we have zinnia seed. This is the seed we saved together in a video from Queen Lime Red Zinnia. And I think we were growing a couple different varieties of zinnias last year, so I'm not exactly sure what the blooms will look like since they do cross-pollinate. Back in the no-dig cut flower garden, some celosia seed that I saved is blooming, and it's basically taken over all the other seed that we sowed. I had a large bag of CELOSIA seed, and I think I had simply labeled it dark foliage, bright red bloom. And so here we have that variety, whatever it is at the end of the day. I also put in some climbing nasturtium seed. I hope those will bloom before the first frost, but we'll see how it goes. So that's a look at how the raised bed garden is shaping up in 2023. Now let's head over to the main flower walk, where I think Grace is waiting for us. So over in the main flower walk this year, I have been struggling mainly with the grass. I put down some new grass seed in late spring, and it quickly got blight, which took out basically the entire pathway. Unfortunately, when I needed to sow grass seed again, it was very hot and very humid, so I'm afraid it doesn't look too nice at the moment, so I hope you won't mind too much. But despite the grass, we do have some beautiful flowers still in bloom, and I do cut very heavily from this garden, so this is definitely a good example of a working cut flower garden in the landscape where most of the blooms have been cut and sold, and we're just looking at what remains after I sell the majority of the blooms. We have some Verbena bonariensis there on the left-hand side of your screen. That's the verbena that we took cuttings from mother stock early in the season, and I think that's the third cutting in bloom now. A beautiful serviceberry tree greets us at the entrance. I thought it would be nice to have peach in the main flower walk this year, and I think in the spring and early summer the peach looked nice, but as it got hotter, I just felt like peach didn't really seem to work over here, so I switched to some yellows. We have some seed dahlias still in bloom over in the main flower walk, and the butterflies and bees are just loving all of these gorgeous single blooms. I finally remembered to divide my Joe Pye weed, and I spread it around the main flower walk versus having one large tall clump of it. But what I'm really loving in the main flower walk this year is this beautiful pink crepe myrtle. It just looks like puffy pink clouds floating above the window and framing it so nicely. A few days ago, my fountain broke, so you'll see that's missing. The stones are also missing from the main flower walk. My intent is to put them back once the grass is in better condition. But let's focus on the positive. Here we have a beautiful bright pink gomphrena. This variety we sowed together, and it's called Carmine. I can't remember exactly how to pronounce this species, but it's not a globosa gomphrena, it's the other one. It starts with an H. I can put the name on the screen. But these non-globosa varieties seem to have less foliage. I'm not sure I would grow it again, but I do like the color of the bloom. We have an elephant ear here that is kind of being pushed forward and swallowed up by this ginormous Miscanthus cabaret. This is my husband's favorite grass, and he didn't want me to remove it from the garden, so of course I honored his request. I do have about 10 stakes in that grass to get it to stay upright. It's very, very heavy. Here we have some more seed dahlias. That one almost looks like Saving Grace, doesn't it? This area is called the main flower walk, but maybe that's ironic because it's cut so heavily there aren't many flowers left. In the far distance, you might be able to see a dahlia called Islander and an orange dahlia that's really good for cutting called Cornell Bronze. That's one I would highly recommend if you're interested in cut dahlias. Here we have a prairie fire crabapple tree. Great for cutting. For whatever reason, the Japanese beetle seemed to leave this crabapple tree alone. Next to that, we have a ginger wine 9-bark. And I'm afraid my placement of these shrubs might be a bit off. I'm covering up my gold hinoki cypress, so maybe I'll try to get in there and selectively prune out a few branches and kind of unveil that beautiful evergreen in the background. Down below we have some phlox, some rudbeckia. You'll see that carmine gomphrena repeated a few times, as well as the verbena bonariensis. And we do have some foxglove and also the beautiful foliage of lady's mantle to enjoy. And so that brings us back around the corner, and we see the raised bed garden again from a different view. So now we're over here in the driveway garden, and I am considering a massive renovation here that probably should take place before we start on the floral library. Now, when I first started to work on this garden and try to make it its own design, I thought it would be nice to have a floral park. This is an area of our property that no one really uses. It's the front corner lot. This is also a bus stop for many people. You can see my flower stand right there. And so for all these reasons and more, we don't really spend any time in this garden. I have a lot of cut flowers over here, but I'm starting to wonder if it would be better to make this area a more formal garden, maybe to replace the pathway with stone that just goes straight ahead and then stops. Maybe I need to bring in some boxwood. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think I'm going to make this garden smaller just so that it's a little less maintenance. There are some really beautiful things in this garden. This is an abelia. I'm not sure on the exact cultivar, but it's fabulous for cutting, and you can use it out of water as well. I believe we started this seed together. Foxy foxglove there on the left, but this seed over here is the pink champagne celosia. It's a mix from floret, and it spikes, plumes. I believe the seed packet said it was also brains. I'm not sure I have any brains. We also have breakout dahlia, Melina fleur dahlia, sweet love dahlia, and cafe au lait is also over here, but they've all been cut. Now here's a look at how the front garden is doing. To be honest with you, as I record this, it doesn't look like this anymore because I'm about halfway through part 2 of the front garden renovation, and I can't wait for you to see it. It is basically 2/3 done now in terms of my full design plan for the front yard makeover. But what you're looking at now is 10 incredible hydrangeas, and they're doing really well, and they just need something in front of them and surrounding them. Do you agree? I will show you that in the next video. But here's kind of a in-between look at how the front garden looks right after we took all the shrubs out, put the new incredible hydrangeas in, but before we put in really the bones of the garden. So that's an overview of how all the gardens look in late August after they've been cut. And I'm still setting up the flower stand every weekend now that school has started. But now I would like to share with you the winners of the dahlia seeds. So last year I grew Saving Grace dahlia, an original dahlia from seed. I saved seed from that dahlia, and here are all of her babies, which all of you helped me name via the comment section of my last video. So the winners are, number 1 is going to be called Goodness Gracious. And my husband and I just love that name because we're always saying to Grace, goodness gracious, Grace, fill in the blank with something that she did. And you know how it goes with Labradors. They always did it. Number 2 is going to be called Eyelashes. And I thought that was such a creative name for this dahlia. and the snips of the petals really do look like eyelashes. Dahlia number 3 is Have Mercy. Any other children of the 80s out there know that reference? I just love this Full House reference. And so number 3 is Have Mercy. Number 4 is Blushing Granny, and I thought that was the perfect name for this delicate beauty of a bloom. Next up, we have Val's Glory, and a number of you loved this dahlia. I wish I could choose all of your names, but Val's Glory is named after someone's dog who made a big impact in their lives and the lives of their son, and I definitely wanted to honor that request. Up next, we have Peach Melba, and I'm embarrassed to say that I've never eaten a peach Melba dessert before, but when I Googled it, it sounded absolutely delightful. Next up, we have Breakfast at Tiffany's, one of my favorite movies. Audrey Hepburn was such a classic beauty, and I feel like this dahlia is a classic beauty as well. Now here we are at Summer Breeze. Does Summer Breeze make you feel fine? Do you know that song reference? Well, I just had to choose that name when I saw it. Next up, we have Bliss, and I chose this name because I think growing dahlias from seed is pure bliss. What a great name. Next up, we have Roly Poly. Some of you might know that Doris Day is my favorite actress, and I really admire her personality and outlook on life. In the movie Pillow Talk, she sang the song Roly Poly, so I had to pick that one. Next up, we have Berry Splash, and doesn't this just look like a splash of berries on a dahlia? I thought that was a perfect name for this dahlia. Now, a lot of you named this dahlia Cup of Grace. I'm putting 2 names on the screen, but if you also commented Cup of Grace, please get in contact with me via Instagram and I'll make sure everyone gets some free seed. But it really does look like a cup of grace, how it points to the heaven and it goes even more upward in the evening. Now over here we have Messy Bun. I don't think I have a good messy bun in bloom right now, but the bloom did look like a messy bun, the perfect hairstyle for gardeners everywhere. This dahlia that's located over in my grandma's garden is going to be called Starry Eyes. I love this one and I love that name because over in my grandma's garden is where the sun sets. And for our last dahlia, the one that the hummingbird adored, I went with Ruby's Girl. So thank you so much to everyone who generously took time out of their day to write a comment and name a dahlia. I hope to give away lots more dahlia seed before the season is over. So if you saw your dahlia's name and your screen name on the screen, just write me a message on Instagram and let me know your mailing address so I can send out some seed to you right around Christmas time. But mainly, I'm just so thankful that I found a community of people that are passionate about growing cut flowers like I am and just absolutely love growing things from seed, remembering those that they've loved and lost in the garden. And it's just wonderful to know that you're not alone in your passion for plants and to know that there are other people out there that cherish the garden as a place of peace, solitude, healing, strength, and really a place to find purpose. I hope that every time that you visit my channel, you would feel a sense of peace, joy, and purpose as well. Well, friends, thanks so much for watching this garden tour, and I'll see you sometime real soon. Bye.